All right, now we're recording. I apologize. We're talking about the Seder plate, folks, for those of you that are popping in late, or for me that's popping this recording on late. So we just talked about the first item on the Seder plate, the karpas, the greens, representing the spring. Traditionally parsley. Oftentimes people will use other spring greens like celery or any number of things. Just don't use romaine lettuce, because I'll explain to you why in a minute. Romaine lettuce, while the leaves are sweet and delicious, the stalks can be very bitter. And so we try to stay away from romaine lettuce for this, which brings us to our next item actually on our Seder plate, the maror and the chazeret. The chazeret and the maror, the bitter herbs. These are two different kinds of bitter herb usually. The maror usually being the ground up bitter herb, and the chazeret oftentimes being a whole representative of the bitter herb. Obviously, this representing the bitterness of slavery. Very, very important to have these bitter herbs. Now, I was going to demo for you tonight how to make your own homemade horseradish. I sent you the recipe. It's stupid, crazy easy, okay? And I was gonna demo it for you. Obviously, I didn't think to call up all the grocery stores and say, please make sure that you have horseradish in stock, because none of them seem to have it in my area. So I apologize for that. And I didn't have time to do an Elliot shopping trip, because you know, when Elliot goes shopping for ingredients, he'll drive out to like Palm Springs if he has to, you know? So, so I didn't have time to do that kind of a shopping trip to find it somewhere else. But usually you can purchase the tuber of horseradish. It kind of looks like a taro root. It looks like a root. It's kind of ugly. It's kind of brownish gray on the outside, a beautiful light gray on the inside. So all you would do to make your homemade horseradish is you would peel that first, peel off the outer layer so it's nice and clean. I recommend dicing it up a little bit, not too much, because remember that horseradish is going to start to affect you right away. The fumes and stuff from a horseradish root are very pungent and very strong. So you have to be super careful. I even know people that put on like gas masks to make their horseradish. It's crazy. Yeah, Elliot, you've done it?
I make it outside.
See, Elliot makes it outside, exactly. So yeah, my mom used to always make it in the kitchen, and if we walked into the dining room when she opened it, we could be in trouble, because that plume just comes out of the food processor. So you take your diced up tuber, you put it into your food processor right here, put a little bit of water, just maybe about a quarter cup of water, just to give it a little bit to work with, and then start pulsing it. Pulse, 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 pulse until it starts to grind down. Once it starts to grind down, then you may want to add a little bit more water depending on how you like it, and then really let it run for a little bit. Let it run for just a little bit and really get ground up. Now, here's the danger zone, folks, okay? I should have a big thing that says warning, warning across the screen. The danger zone is, if I'm over here on my food processor and I've ground up my horseradish, I can stand right here all day long, right here, and I'm fine. The minute I open this baby, I am in the danger zone. It is crazy. I have watched my mother literally start choking and gagging and have to leave the room like she got hit with tear gas. It's horrible when it happens. So please, when you open it, step away, open it up, and walk backwards. Move away from the container and let it sit. Let it sit for about 2 to 3 minutes. 2 to 3 minutes before you add the vinegar, okay? If you let it sit for about 2 to 3 minutes, it's actually gonna get a little bit stronger, believe it or not. So if you put the vinegar in right away, it's gonna water it down. It's gonna take away some of that heat, which if that's what you're going for, then go for it, and you can put it in quicker. But I personally like my bitter herbs to be really, really hot and bitter. I like to know that I have experienced slavery whenever I eat it. Very, very important. Elliot agrees. Elliot agrees. Hi, Gail. Good to see you too.
Gail just joined us. I have a little tip on that.
Yeah, please, Elliot.
So I do, instead of chop it in little pieces or cube it, I cut it in long pieces and grate it on the grater. Oh. And it goes right into the bottom. Just take off the top bordering, whatever you're going to do, and the grating makes it so much easier to puree.
Ah, okay, that's good to
So
know.
grate it first, and then chop it.
But Elliot, how's the experience of grating it as far as the heat and stuff while you're working on it?
So just peel it. I put it in big, big lumps, grate it in, take the top off, put it into, I do it outside, put it into a bowl, put it in the blade, put it bow back in, and it's much faster because it's much easier on the blade, and it's pretty even because it's very small, it's grated, so it's very small.
Ah,
Do you grate it by
awesome.
hand or in the Cuisinart?
No, in the Cuisinart, grated in the Cuisinart, yeah.
Oh, you grated in the, that's what you're saying. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, not by hand.
I thought you were grating it by hand. That's why I couldn't understand how you could handle
No
that.
way.
No way. Okay, good. All right, so Elliot gives a good point. So you can put your grating disc in first at the top. You can grate it in, then open it, step away, move away, take out the grating disc, put in your blade, your cutting blade, and do some more, okay? And get it to the consistency you want. Now, after you put in that about is it a third cup that I said in the recipe, folks? Because I don't have the recipe in front of me. I think it's about a third cup of vinegar, white vinegar. Just run it again a little bit to see how it starts to come out. See if you like the consistency. If you don't like the consistency, add a little bit more water. It's okay. I don't recommend adding the beet juice or things like that. If you want to, because you want your stuff to be red or pink, then go ahead. But to me, it just waters it down. And I'm not a big fan of watered down horseradish. I just like my horseradish to be very pure. It's what I grew up with. It's what I like. Again, when we eat the horseradish for that first time after saying the blessing, we basically look around the table to see who's not crying, and we know who didn't try it. So it's pretty much that easy. So that's the horseradish. Still perfectly good on a vegan Seder plate, perfectly good on a traditional Seder plate, all good, all right? The next thing is—
You have a question from Kathy.
Oh, Kathy, question, yes, go ahead.
How far ahead can you make this?
Oh, it lasts forever, Kathy.
Huh?
It really lasts like almost forever. I'm not kidding.
Oh, okay. So you can make it like 2 or 3 days ahead of time and.
Easy.
Okay.
Easy. In fact, I will say that both things that I was going to demo tonight are better if you make them about 2 to 3 days or even a week out.
Okay.
Because the longer that the charoset sits with the wine and stuff like that in the fridge too, the more flavorful it's going to get, the more delicious it's going to get. And the same thing with with your horseradish. And don't forget that the vinegar is a natural preservative. The wine is a natural preservative. Okay, these are all things that are just going to make it last in your refrigerator. Keep it in a sealed container or a sealed container, either a jar or some kind of sealed container, and it's all going to be great. Okay. So next we've got the beitza, the egg. The egg now obviously doesn't work on a vegan Seder plate. I'll talk about that in just a second. But the egg represents new life. It represents new life, and that's a really important symbol to us at the Seder. So what represents new life for vegans? You know, obviously they don't want to put an egg on their plate. I don't blame them. It's okay. Okay. They've chosen to be vegan for a reason. All right. And part of that reason often has to do with not wanting to use any kind of animal products. So should they not have Passover? No, I don't think so. So instead, vegans have replaced the egg with oftentimes some kind of pitted fruit. You know, I know some vegans that use an avocado pit in place of their beitza, in place of their egg, partially because it's about the same size and the same shape. All right, and because it definitely is the source of new life. Any of us that were in the 3rd grade one day when somebody gave us an avocado pit and said, put toothpicks in it and put it in a glass of water, we've watched an avocado pit start to grow roots and grow life, right? We've all done it, okay? And if you haven't, then you're lying, I swear. Because I feel like everybody got to do that when they were a kid, all right? So the other thing that you can use are edible flowers, by the way. Edible flowers are a great, great substitute for the beitza and a beautiful substitute for the beitza. It really looks lovely on your table. It absolutely looks like it's a source of new life, and it represents that portion of the Seder plate so beautifully for a vegan, and I absolutely love it. The next thing that we would find on our traditional Seder plate, of course, is the Roux or the Lamb Shank. All right, obviously we're not going to find that on a vegan Seder plate either, but the Lamb Shank reminds us of the sacrifice. It reminds us of the sacrifice of slavery, but it also reminds us of the sacrifice that we had to make to paint our door frames to protect us from the angel of death, right? We took the blood, we painted the door frames, the angel of death went over our houses and went only to the Egyptian households, okay? So what do we do if we're vegan? If we're vegan, one of the most common replacements for this Roux is a beetroot. And the reason for the beetroot being a common replacement is because of its deep red dyeing kind of color, okay? The fact that any of us who have ever dropped a beetroot on our clothing, we know that that's the end of that clothing usually, all right? So beetroot could be used also to paint the doorposts. And it represents the same kind of thing. So let's see what we've got so far. So far we've got our maror and chazeret, our betza, our karpas, and our zeroah, which brings us now to our final thing. We've got the charoset, which is our apples and nuts, et cetera, that represent the mortar that we use to make the bricks, okay? I'm gonna teach you this really quick and easy Texan style charoset here. We're gonna start with some envy apples. You wanna use a sweet but hard kind of apple, okay? You don't want too soft of an apple or else it's just gonna become mush. So I don't know about you guys, but I discovered the envy apples this year and I'm in love. I think they're better than a Honeycrisp. Honeycrisp is another option for you, okay? But I really think that these envy apples are even better than a Honeycrisp apple. I'm just gonna throw some into my Cuisinart here and I'm gonna pulse it. I'm gonna pulse it until it gets to everything, gets it down to like about 1/4 of an inch size. Come on now. It's not wanting to behave. All right, let me get that down there, see if that'll get pulled down. All right, I'm gonna take my spatula. Hopefully it's good. And I'm just gonna scrape it down the sides so that I'm sure that everything gets down into the blades. All right. Oh, this already looks good to me. I'm so excited. All right. Now, my mom used to really make her charoset to be super duper dense and small. Okay, almost like a paste. So it really became more like mortar than a brick. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is I took some beautiful pecans, whatever you call them. I'm giving you both pronunciations in case you come from a different part of the country. All right, and I took about 8 ounces of pecans, and I baked them in the oven at 350 degrees for about 5, 6, 7 minutes, okay? You don't want to overdo them. And then I took them out so that they could cool. And I'm going to put all 8 ounces into my pot here, my bowl. And I'm going to pulse again. Oh, listen to that. Gotta love that sound. All right. Some that don't want to go down into the blade. Don't want big, huge chunks. All right, there we go. Oh, look at that. Oh, it's looking good. It's looking quite yummy to me. Then I'm going to add to it my tablespoon or so of cinnamon. Sorry, Gail. Gail does not like cinnamon and fruit.
But it's okay in charoset. Don't, you know.
Oh, that's good to know.
Oops.
I said, now she tells me.
I put about a tablespoon or so. There might be more. And I'm just pulsing it. Notice I don't just leave it on, because if you leave it on, you're going to end up with serious mush. Okay? And then we're going to take our wine, Concord grape only. I don't recommend using the blackberry or any of those other yucky flavors. This one's bad enough. And we're going to pour some of our wine into here. I believe that the recipe said like a cup, didn't it?
Right.
Yeah, that just seems like an awful lot to me. I always cook haroset by touch, okay? So I'm looking for what I want this to look like and taste like. You'll notice I haven't put any sugar in. I know that the recipe calls for sugar, but I haven't put it in
What
because,
about honey?
well, you could use honey, but I
Little
haven't
bit.
put sugar in because haroset, I mean, the envy apples are already so sweet. So I just want to give it a taste before I decide if it needs it. Let's give it a go here.
And that wine is pretty sweet too, so you may not even want to add sugar.
Oh my God. This is so good. This totally tastes like just like Mama used to make. And that's it, by the way, folks. That's all it takes to make homemade haroset. I have to tell you, I love the pecans instead of the walnuts. I know that traditionally we use
Oh
walnuts.
God, me too. I'm all about the pecans.
But these pecans are amazing in here and they really add such a beautiful flavor. I'm going to take this off so you can see how it came out. You can see that it's really a beautiful paste almost, and really super delicious. And then I'm going to put this in the fridge and I'm going to let it sit in the fridge for a couple of days, because that's when you're going to get the incredible flavor. Now, the great thing is when you take it out of the fridge, there might be some juice that's sitting on top of it because it's been sitting there for a while. Pour that off, give it a taste, stir it up with a spoon, give it another taste. And then if you feel like it needs more wine or more cinnamon or more sugar or whatever, add it in. It's okay. Nobody ever said you can't add stuff, okay? Nobody ever said that once you cooked it, you can't doctor it. All right. In fact, almost every chef I know will doctor everything that they make if it doesn't taste quite right. That's why they do the old chef thing, right? Where they take the spoon and they pick and they put it on their hand right here, right here. This is your tasting zone, right over here, right, Elliot? It's the tasting zone. You put it on your hand right here, and you go, and it's delicious. Okay, it's just the right amount of salt from New Zealand. No, I'm just kidding. But but that really is one of the best ways to taste a sauce, to taste anything, because it's right there. And otherwise, you're going to go through spoon after spoon after spoon after spoon. And that's kind of crazy. So, folks, I'm really happy that you're all here tonight. I'm especially happy that my guest is here tonight. I'm going to take us back to our full grid mode. We are so lucky tonight to have Abby Weeks with us. Where is Abby? Hello. We are so lucky to have Abby Weeks with us. Yes, it says Gabrielle, and that is her actual name, but she often goes by Abby, so in case you were wondering. But so Abby is with us. Abby is an amazing engineer, which is going to make her one of Gail's best friends, okay? So Abby is an engineer who has also picked up the amazing culinary arts, and especially loves vegan and vegetarian foods. And she's going to demo for us some amazing vegan dishes tonight that she sent you the recipes for. Abby, I did send you an email about one of them because I noticed that one of the dishes that you sent a recipe for was a frittata, and I was like, that can't be vegan.
No, that one's not.
That one's not. Okay, that's good. So, but I mean, I have a question though. I mean, is there a good egg substitute for vegans? I don't know. I'm too, so I'm just curious from both of your standpoints.
For baking, yes, I use applesauce when I'm baking. But many people like soft tofu or even a medium tofu, kind of more firm, and they put it in a skillet like you would scrambled eggs. It gives you the consistency of eggs, but none of the flavor. Okay. But if other people are eating scrambled eggs and you feel left out, you can just chop up a bunch of tofu with whatever you would put with your eggs. But when it comes to, and actually I made a vegan hard-boiled egg when I was in London. That was crazy. It was potato starch and some other things, and it was a lot of work, but we recreated egg white and yolk and then ate it. And it was scary how realistic it tasted. We put just a little bit of mustard in to color the yolk, and that sent a message to our brain to taste egg yolk. And so it tasted very much like it. But it's a lot of work.
So Abby, maybe while you're demonstrating and doing stuff, you can tell us a little bit more about how you found yourself cooking. But I'm going to spotlight you now so that you can guide us through some of your recipes that you sent us.
Awesome. So everybody's got the recipes. I sent them out by email. I teach a class that is usually 3D, and it's a lot easier in 3D to talk to people about cooking, to see where it is they are, and to really work with people. We see cooking shows on TV all the time, and with those, a lot of the times they'll explain what they're doing, but there's just no substitute for real life and being able to taste things. I worked in restaurants a lot when I was younger, and that's why I like cooking at home, because working in so many restaurants, I know how much fat and sugar and oil goes into restaurant food. That's where we get most of our flavor. Flavor comes from sugar, fat, oil, salt, a lot of that. Those are what we use for preserving and for making things taste good. So in order to make food healthy, I often use things like orange or lemon zest. That gives you flavor without sugar. Nuts, toasted nuts give you a burst of flavor, and you also get some crunch with that. One of my big favorites for making soups is Better Than Bouillon. It comes in chicken and beef, which are real chicken and beef. But if you are trying to eat vegetarian, whether it's all the time or just a few days a week, then this Better Than Bouillon gives you a rich, good flavor so that your meals have an umami flavor. And that dark filling flavor that we often get from mushrooms or meat kind of sends your body the signal that you're having a meal and not just a snack. And with a lot of vegetarian cooking, I really try to make sure that we've got lots of different colors, lots of different textures, some crunchy things, so that people feel like they've had a full meal and not just like a light dieting meal. So hearing him talk, I went and picked some nasturtium flowers from my yard. These are edible, and we can put those on this also. With the zoodles, I use this. It's a super cheap little zoodle maker that I got from Bed Bath & Beyond. They make fancier ones that take up a lot of room in your kitchen, but I didn't really want to devote the room to that. So when I've got too many zucchinis in my yard, in the garden, I just use this. And it's like a pencil sharpener. And to get down to the very end of it, I use a fork and carefully spin it in there so I don't hurt my fingertips. But as you can see, I made a full pan of these noodles. That's just one zucchini. Took me about 5 minutes to make that. And we've got a bunch of these zoodles. Now you can eat them raw. I'm going to cook them for a little while. But it's fine to eat them raw if you like that. My husband does not. And because they cook so very quickly, I got all my fixins together. So we've got to put on that fresh lemon. I've got some Meyer lemon that I cut into yesterday and used a little bit of. I'm going to use these wonderful edible nasturtium flowers. I'm going to use tahini, which we use a lot of tahini on things. It's wonderful. And then I'm going to kind of decorate the top of it and add some sun-dried tomatoes, some fresh parsley, and I have some black olives. And so with that, it's going to be a wonderful pasta-ish thing. Here's black olives. I also have been making zoodles with basil pesto, which is not vegan because it's got some cheese in it. But if you don't mind eating a little bit of dairy, if you haven't had meat, then you can use pesto. And this stuff I've been putting on things comes from Trader Joe. Their eggplant garlic spread. Most people put it on breads and things, but I find it's really amazing on vegetables too. And while I'm showing you stuff I grabbed from the cabinet to display, thought I'd give you also my big trick, which is aluminum-free baking powder. When I do baking, I always buy this. It's hard to find, but it's no more expensive. And that makes all your baked goods, especially more delicate baked goods, taste good. The baking powder that has aluminum in it tastes like I've got braces again. It's just a very metally flavor to me. So I, in preparation for this, started the onions a little while ago. The onions are gonna be for the soup, but you can also throw them in on the zoodles if you like. I'm softening these onions for that baked potato soup. Just started cooking these little zoodles in a tiny bit of olive oil. And I always keep in my kitchen, I don't know if that went down there, some baked potatoes. Whenever I've got the oven on, I'll go ahead and I'll throw some baked potatoes in there. Because when I'm making anything, to have a couple of already baked potatoes is just great. And so if the oven's on, I'm throwing some potatoes in there, and that way it's super easy. If I'm making a frittata or scrambled eggs, I've got fully cooked baked potato to chop up and throw in there. And for this soup, it works great. Also for like stir fries with vegetables, sometimes I'll just chop up 1 potato or 2 potatoes and put them in there. And I like doing them baked instead of chopping a raw potato, because with a raw potato, I got to keep stirring them a lot, or some of it can get burned and some will still be gummy and a little raw. And also you've got to use a lot of oil or it's going to stick to itself and the pan. But with a baked potato, I throw them in the oven, and then when I chop them up, they're very fluffy. They have a wonderful texture, and I don't have all that added oil. And my husband and I, as we're starting to get a little older, we are concerned about oil, cholesterol, things like that. And so, but even if you aren't concerned about cholesterol, if you're a runner, it's still nice to have a fluffy textured potato instead of a heavy, oily, sauteed potato. So is anybody cooking along? Did anybody make zoodles?
Is anybody cooking along, she's asking?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure anybody's cooking along, but if you are, let us know.
Well, and I had said a couple of recipes. There are a number of things you can top it with. I liked the lemon and the tahini. I had put them on separately, one with lemon, one with tahini, but I really liked them together. They were stronger together. The pesto was another one we really liked. Traditional red sauce also works. So whatever you would put on spaghetti, if you made wheat spaghetti, you can use a jar of Roux or whatever brand you like. So these little zoodles are only going to saute for a few minutes. And then once they do, I'm going to trim it up a tiny bit. They take almost no time to cook at all. It's the onion is what takes a long time on the soup. And if nobody else is making the soup, the other thing with soup, along with sauteing the onions and then cutting up these potatoes, and they're much easier to cut when they're baked. They're nice and fluffy and they cut real easily. I also, does everybody know how to make a roux, to make a Beccamel sauce for the base of a soup or a macaroni and cheese? Well, a roux is just flour and fat. So some butter, some olive oil, margarine, whatever substitute for butter you like. You put equal amounts of that in a pan and just cook it slowly and gently, and it will turn color and become kind of a nutty brown. And you can actually make it fairly dark if you like a stronger, more coffee-like flavor.
So is there an option during Passover?
Yeah, you just yeah, you'd have to use, you can use the alternative flour of nut flour, or just skip it altogether. But for Passover, you'd have to skip that. And I wrote that in the recipe, I remembered. But then we also use almond milk, or you can use cow milk if you like cow milk, but just like some kind of a milk thing goes into that, and then you get a milky soup base that you can drop the potatoes chopped into, as well as fresh parsley.
Can you
onion.
Can you use arrowroot? Is that acceptable for Passover? Anybody know?
I think
arrowroot is acceptable for Passover,
Yes.
and it's what I use.
It's not a grain, right? That's a root, so
yeah,
it's okay.
arrowroot is fine.
Yeah, so you could use arrowroot instead,
Okay.
with a little bit of water, right?
Yeah. Or know that your soup will be a little thinner. That without
Right.
a flour or an arrowroot or something, it's going to be a little bit of a thinner soup and less thick and hearty. But you can also, I didn't double check this. The Better Than Bouillon, I don't believe has any grain in it. Somebody once asked me if there was soy in it.
No, I think the
I
better
believe it
is
actually
okay.
has, it's a fermented yeast at times. Some of them are, at least like the beef one is, because it's essentially just Marmite or Vegemite, and that's a fermented yeast. Now, I don't know if that's like a commercialized yeast or more like a nutritional yeast or a brewer's yeast.
Well, the beef one also contains regular beef, so
No, there's a better
At
than
that
beef one
point-
and a better than chicken one that are very flavorful, really great for using as substitutions for vegan dishes.
Oh, really? Oh, that's great to
Isn't
know,
it
Adam.
a
Thank you.
high sodium content though?
often when I'm cooking and I want a cheese, I use something called a brewer's yeast, and it's not a baker's yeast. I'm pulling it out right now. The brewer's yeast it doesn't actually rise, but I don't know if it's kosher. It probably might not be.
Nutritional yeast and brewer's yeast, you can both find kosher and they both should be fine for Passover.
Okay, because it doesn't cause bread to rise, and it doesn't rise.
Right. Yeah, those are good. Those are good for Passover.
Okay, so yeah, I've got the nutritional yeast right here, available. I think I got this at Ralph's. And it adds some savory, nutty flavor. So that gives you something. If you want pesto, but you don't want to eat Parmesan cheese, then you can use the brewer's yeast with pine nuts and basil, and it gives you a bit of a nutty flavor, more of that umami flavor.
And then Abby, I just wanted to go back because you were talking about milk options, and you had mentioned to me something about cashew milk. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, they make all kinds of milks from all kinds of things. There's rice milk, which is very watery and sweet. And if you're making a soup or something, though, when you want something thick, I get cashew milk. And this cashew milk, it says it's unsweetened. You want to make sure and look for unsweetened. And when I'm making macaroni and cheese or baked potato soup, and I want something that is more close to a cow milk than that very thin, watery, sweet rice milk,
Right.
I go for cashew milk. And you got to make sure that you have unsweetened though, because many of these milks are used in smoothies. And so they have sugar added, or like an almond is just a little bit sweeter than a cashew. But I read the ingredients and I make sure that there is no sugar added, because a lot of these things people use for making ice creams and stuff like that. And so they don't mind that it's kind of sweet, but I do. And pardon me, I should have gotten that plate out first. Oh, actually, I've got a bowl out already. So when the zoodles are cooked in the skillet, I just throw them into a bowl. And they look yummy. Unlike pasta, you don't have to drain it. We can decorate it with these little edible flowers.
Did you buy it? No.
And let's see if I can make this stand up. There we go. And I made it with just some Meyer lemon, which is super sweet. I love the Meyer lemons. I have a lot of that. And then luckily I've already got another tahini going because I'm about to use the last of this one. A little bit of tahini in there. I forgot to bring salt and pepper over. One of my tricks is to always add my salt at the last minute. If it's on top, then your tongue is going to taste it, and you don't have to use as much of it as if it's fully mixed in. And we try to eat a little less salt because so many yummy things like potato chips and French fries have a ton of salt in them. So I've got the lemon mixed with the tahini. Gonna throw in some of these sun-dried tomatoes and a little bit of that fresh parsley and a couple of black olives.
That looks delicious.
Now, do I have the camera lined up? Can you see it?
Oh, it's beautiful.
That looks
Lots
great.
of color, lots of strong flavors, the black olives, the lemon, lots of strong flavors in there. So no one's going to feel like it's a sacrifice to eat vegan or vegetarian. If you pack a lot of colors and textures and flavors in there, and I give you a list of some of the things I use sometimes, some spinach, you can fold that in at the last minute just to lightly wilt it. Then you get something that's incredibly colorful, flavorful, and no one is going to feel like they're on a diet or a high cholesterol diet. And our onions here, you may see I have been cooking those low and slow since about 5:45. So it's been about an hour and they're just now getting to where I like them. You can just leave them on a very low temperature and make them caramelize. And that brings out some of the natural sweetness in them. And that really makes onions wonderful. Any questions on any of this?
It looks delicious and healthy.
It is. We try to eat healthy because that way we can go then get French fries.
And drink wine.
And
I love it.
No, that's great.
Carlin always criticizes my classes because they're not healthy enough for her.
It's true. Sorry.
one of the things I like to do is to take the traditional foods I grew up with, like macaroni and cheese, and make them more healthy. I found a way to make a vegetarian Spam, which I kind of experimented with some things. It was sort of interesting, and I decided it was not worth the trouble. But as a child, evidently, I love Spam.
Yikes.
Yeah, I think that's child abuse. But my mother is now wondering when I'm going to grow out of this silly tofu phase.
Is she in prison? I'm sorry.
Is she in prison?
Just asking. It's terrible.
Yeah.
You know, my dad always keeps Spam and all that corned beef in his cupboard to this day. So
corned beef. Oh, I remember that. Yeah, we used to do that all the time.
But Carlin, it's perfectly healthy as long as he leaves it in his cupboard.
there you go. That's right.
Nice to say, Gil.
Dale.
Nice to
I'll
say.
tell him that.
A lot of people have been doing a meatless Monday and maybe fish Friday. A lot of people are trying to give up some of the meat they've gotten used to, maybe always having a vegetarian breakfast, skipping even turkey bacon or some of those kind of things one can get that are fatty and meaty for breakfast. And a lot of people who have heart conditions or high cholesterol are finding that if they can eat less meat, then they're healthier. And also I try to eat oatmeal almost every morning for breakfast because I'm kind of half asleep. I don't know what I'm eating anyway. So it would be wasted on me to eat like the good fattening, salty, sugary, pancakey foods, because pancakes with syrup, I'm not really gonna quite register what I'm eating. I may as well save that for lunch or dinner because I'm kind of half asleep in the morning. So I just eat oatmeal with no added sugar, just a little bit of dried fruit on it. But even if you don't want to make a full out commitment to vegetarian meals, just eating vegetarian a couple days a week is, a little healthier for you and your heart.
Absolutely.
I
So
think
what
this is
else are
great.
we cooking tonight? What else are we cooking tonight, Abby? I know you.
Well, I'm waiting for the baked potato soup, and
Okay.
we've got, see the zoodles, like literally, I threw that together in, what was that, like 5 minutes? It took me about 5 minutes to make the little zoodly things and then 5 minutes to cook them and assemble. I'm still waiting for these onions. I think they're good enough. I'm gonna have to set the camera down for a minute. Admire my beautiful ceiling.
Okay, can I ask, is that zoodle thing called a zoodle thing at Bed Bath & Beyond?
Yes.
Yeah, it's called a zoodle maker, and I actually just found one today at Marshall's as well. So you can find them all over the place.
Okay.
This is the cheapest one because I wasn't sure I was going to like these. I thought, I love pasta. I love gluten. Gluten's wonderful stuff. We're making bread right now, and we just made a whole tray full of biscuits. But I thought I'd just try this because I was really running out of zucchini recipes. My zucchini, when I grow it in the garden, is either extremely plentiful or it's not growing at all. And it's just, those are the only two settings for zucchini.
I make a great zucchini bread.
Which uses like a small amount of zucchini, but I wanted to use up a bunch of zucchini. Yeah. And I got a bunch of recipes that I like for zucchini, but I was kind of getting tired of them. So I bought this just to see how I liked it.
Ooh, you could probably
also
zoodle
make
it and then
macarons.
freeze it and have zoodles in your freezer.
Yes, I could make zoodles and do that. The other thing people do is they buy it's like a clamp, like for peeling apples, and that it affixes itself to your countertop, and then you can crank that, and that will make zoodles if you're making for a large number of people. But I wasn't going to make a ton of them, so I'm going to get my. I have it out already. My cashew milk is out, and I'm going to chop up my potato. I gave you a recipe with the amount for one serving. So if you're making it for 3 or 4 or 5, whatever in your household, you could just do the math. 1 potato approximately per person, about a half a cup of the onion. And then with the potato, I put it in before I put the milk in so it doesn't splash, because I didn't want to be splashed by a big bunch of stuff and get hot stuff on me. So I just chop it, and you see how it retains its fluffiness. And we'll go over there. And it loses a little bit of something without having the flour in there to add thickener, but it's still going to be nice. And then this cashew milk, I'm going to let it cook just till it's warm. And I don't even measure it with the cashew milk. I just put it in until it looked about like that for me, much like the Haros that he was talking about.
We couldn't actually see what amount you meant to what it looked like.
Can you see?
Oh, there we go. Now we can see. Yes.
Yeah, most to the soupiness that you like.
Mhm.
If you like a whole lot of potato and not much broth, make it that way. If you like it very, very soupy, make it that way. It's whatever you like, the texture you like. And I'm just going to stir it here for a few minutes to warm that milk up. With the cashew milk and things like that, they don't have to be cooked. They can be had raw. But if you use an actual cow milk, you want to cook that because otherwise it tastes weird. So in a soup, it will taste kind of funny unless you really cook it for a while. So that's going to take like a few minutes. And then I will add a tiny bit of the better than bouillon and then top it with whatever you like. Like I like spring onions on a baked potato. If you want to put a dollop of sour cream on there or a vegan substitute for sour cream, you can do that. What else do people like to put on their potatoes?
Oh, that's a dangerous question.
They make some really good vegan cheeses if you want. We often eat real cheese in our house, but we kind of
Bacos
try
are
not to eat
vegan.
it every day for every meal. It would
What
be
did you
very
say, Garland?
Bacos are vegan.
Bacos, yeah.
I mean, my daughter likes that crap. But this is great. I love it.
Tell us how you really feel, Garland. Tell us how you really feel.
Was I not on mute?
It's time for more wine.
So
Oh, my
this
goodness.
is kind of cooking here. You can see it's there. Can you see
Oh,
it?
that's good. Yeah. That
If
looks
you
delicious.
cooked baked potatoes in the house, or my husband made these wonderful biscuits earlier this afternoon. We're starting to do sourdough because everybody else is, and it's peer pressure. If you, when you've got the oven on, just go ahead and throw a few clean potatoes in there, then you've got potatoes for baking. And when I cook potatoes, I don't peel them. I don't peel my carrots either. I scrub them. I've got a little vegetable brush that lives by my sink. And when I just scrub them and then bake them, and because the peels contain a lot of vitamins and roughage, it's got your fiber and that's good for you. So, and I think they've got more interest when they've got their peels on them. Same thing with apples. Those recipes for apple pie, I never peel them. I leave the peel on. It gives you pretty color. It's got some pectin in it, which is awesome. And I'm thinking this looks, you see, I'm just gonna stick my finger in there. Yeah, it's not warm yet. I'm gonna turn the temperature up a little bit. And then I will just ladle that into a bowl or a mug. And it's a very quick soup. And also then it lets people do what they want at the dinner table. I'm a big fan of putting out several bowls of things. So there may be some real cheese and some of the Daya imitation cheese, a bowl of chopped spring onions, a bowl of parsley, maybe chives, whatever it is. Oh yeah, I'm gonna get some chives right now and put them in there so they're kind of warm. But that way people can doctor it the way they want at the table. If you don't like chives, pass on them. If you like parsley, use twice as much if you feel like it. That way people get exactly what they want at the table. There we go. Dried chives work really well when I make my homemade biscuits and breads.
I don't think I've ever had dried chives in my house.
but with Bed Bath and Beyond, I like to buy items from them because they will let you return things even if they've been used. You have like a year to return things. So, and that's good because many times I'll buy something like the Vitamix. I wasn't sure I'd really like this, and they're kind of expensive. And with any other department store, if you've used something once and then go like, wow, this is not as great as I thought, or I returned something to Bed Bath and Beyond once because the object was great, but then cleaning it took like a week and a half. It was the Jack LaLanne juicer when those were hot back in 2004. It made wonderful juice, but then I would spend like the rest of a 3-day weekend cleaning that thing. And so I stopped using it.
Store these items.
They took it back for me and they were really good about it. So
anybody want to buy a ricer?
A ricer? Are you kidding me? Ricers are so important. They're one of the best things in your kitchen.
Yeah.
No, thank you. It takes up too much room.
Sometimes I don't want to devote the counter space to something. Yeah. So if you buy something from Bed Bath and Beyond and after 6 months and 2 uses, you decide that you just don't really like it or it's too specialized and you're not going to use it again, you take it back. So I buy stuff with them. And I buy all my gifts from them too, because if I give you blue bath towels for a new housewarming and you go like, oh, we're going to paint the bathroom, we want green instead, you can go exchange stuff at Bed Bath and Beyond, and they're awesome about that. And there are some other stores that don't let you exchange things, even if they're unused in the package with the receipt, they still act like, I don't know. So that's why I like Bed Bath and Beyond and REI and Nordstrom's. They will let you exchange things if it's not what you wanted for yourself or as a good gift for the other person. So it looks like this is starting to bubble. So I'm going to get out my trusty Loch Ness Monster ladle. And I will put this, do I have it aimed right? Can y'all see?
No.
No, but that's okay. You'll show us in a second.
Sorry.
It's okay.
My husband had offered to do this, but I thought most of it would be talking and discussing. Now, you notice I didn't tell people how big to cut the potatoes. It's whatever size you like. If you like teeny weeny, delicate, thinly sliced potatoes, do it. If you like them bigger and chunkier to get a nice mouthful of it, do it. It's whatever you want. And let me taste it, make sure it's good. Oh yeah, that's really good. And my potatoes, I put them about this size. It's whatever size you like.
Those look great.
Mm-hmm. It's quick, it's easy, and you can put all kinds of fresh herbs and stuff on it. Sometimes I'll even put chopped carrots in the soup with it. So I've got some cooked carrots in there too, but then it's not really a big potato soup. But you know, throw whatever you want in there. And with the zoodles, I think I suggested also that Trader Joe's has a bag of frozen artichokes.
Oh,
so you
yeah.
get some frozen artichokes, and adding just 3 or 4 of those artichoke chunks to something really makes a dish awesome. And I love that I can keep a container of those, a little bag of those from Trader Joe's, and it'll last me about a month or 2 because I'll just put like 4 per person in any stir fry or Italian dish that I'm making, or even Middle Eastern food. And with the zoodles, rather than making them more Italian with a red sauce, when I did this kind of Middle Eastern-y tahini thing with the lemon, I also put in some roasted eggplants and roasted carrots that I was making in the oven. And so then it took it not so much to an Italian zoodle, but more of a Middle Eastern thing. And I really liked it that way too.
I like that. That sounds fantastic.
Does anybody have nasturtiums growing in their yard?
Yes.
They've got a wonderful peppery flavor. I'm going to go in for the nasturtium on my zoodle right now. Except I tried to break the zoodles up as I did it, so I didn't have one 17-foot long Lady in the Tramp zoodle, but I seem to have ended up with that anyway.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love it. I love it. Now I noticed that you sent us a couple of kale recipes as well, and this frittata recipe. I'm presuming you're not planning to demo those.
No, I just thought people might want to have those.
Yeah.
They're just some of the things that we do in our class. And kale, most people have, well, I don't know. Most people think of kale still as a decoration.
Yeah, I think of it as ground cover at Disneyland. I always think of
And-
kale as ground cover at Disneyland. That's my reference. But
In my backyard, kale and chard are the things that want to grow the best in my garden. So because they really want to grow, I want to use them. I want workhorses from the garden. And so I've been finding more things to do with kale because it grows like crazy.
yeah,
So the sweet salad is a really fun thing. It can be a substitute for a dessert if you don't want a decadent dessert. The savory one is really nice too. I put like vegetables and make kind of a salade niçoise using kale. That's a fun thing to do. And really the only key to that when I'm using kale in a raw manner is to make sure that you put your olive oil or another oil like a hazelnut oil or something. Oil and vinegar needs to get massaged into that kale and then leave it to set for about 20 or 25 minutes. Otherwise it's very chalky. But that lemon kind of cooks it, if you will, a little bit like ceviche. It's not a heat cooking, but it will transform the kale and make it much less chalky and make it taste good, as if it were gently steamed. But if you don't do that and leave it set for a good long time, like 20 minutes, maybe even 30, then it's too chewy and it doesn't have a good feel on your teeth. It's pretty, it's not as good as if you do it early and then chop your other toppings or do whatever else you're going to do. Doesn't even have to be refrigerated. You can leave it on the counter. But yeah, the kale's got to set with that. And then you can make it either sweet or savory.
huh? That sounds fabulous. And then I know that you sent us this frittata instructions too, and we really appreciate that because, I feel like people just think that that having to throw something in the oven is just suddenly so much more work. But for a frittata, I just feel like it just makes, it's this whole new dish for your eggs if you're an egg eater, Yeah. It's just amazing.
It's for dinner. It works for a dinner. It works for a lunch.
Yeah.
I grabbed that from my weekend brunches with friends. So some things that are impressive to your friends or family, but that won't keep you stuck in the kitchen. Like if you make pancakes, you're gonna get to enjoy them. You're in there making pancakes while other people are eating them or they get cold. But things that you can make that present really nicely where people feel like they've gone to a fancy restaurant, but you can actually enjoy your morning or your afternoon with your guests instead of being trapped in the kitchen like a scullery maid. And
it's a great thing to make for Passover as well. And you could even decide to crumble up some matzah into it and kind of make it a matzah brie frittata. I mean, it could be really, really delicious.
Totally.
Yeah, it'd be a lot of fun.
Or just start a little matzah next to it. But yeah, that'd be great.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Abby, we really appreciate you being with us tonight and teaching us about the zerdles and teaching us about this incredible potato soup. I'm so excited about that. I'm going to just take us back here. Zoodles, not zerdles. My wife is correcting me.
You can add the R, that works.
I like zerdles. Zerdles, it's kind of like Zerdle the turtle. No, that's Yertle the turtle, but that's okay.
The R is red sauce, if you want to make it more traditionally Italian.
Yeah, I have had zoodles with red sauce. I've had that before. They're quite delicious. Quite delicious. You almost can't tell the difference between eating that or eating a pasta. Or it kind of ends up being a little bit like what's the word I'm looking for? The French vegetables with tomato sauce. No, with tomato sauce. Come on, Elliot, help me.
French vegetable with tomato sauce?
Yeah,
Ratatouille.
Ratatouille.
Yeah, it almost ends up being like a ratatouille. So.
Ratatouille or puttevesca.
Or puttevesca, yeah, I like that too. So very delicious stuff. Thank you so much for teaching us these recipes. I really hope that everybody here gets a little bit experimental and excited about Passover coming up. So often we don't get to be too excited about Passover because we're so rushed with work and we're rushed with everything else around us. And the biggest challenge that we have with Passover in our area is finding some of the ingredients for Passover, finding that your matzah farfel, finding evidently a tuber of horseradish, which I never thought was going to be a problem because I see them all year round. And then suddenly today doesn't seem to exist. And this week doesn't seem to be existing.
It's like a toilet paper during pandemic.
Exactly, Natasha. exactly, that's a perfect analogy.
The horseradish is getting harder and harder to find. I had trouble last year too.
Yeah,
Really?
I just may have to start growing it.
As much.
Maybe go into LA.
I got it in LA. That's where I got it in the kosher
Yeah,
market
there's
in LA.
plenty in Glendale.
Thanks, Adam. Are you delivering?
Instacart.
It's Adam.
No, but Roz and Don will take orders and they can stop on their way.
Oh,
They'll
there
be
you
up
go.
there
That's
tomorrow.
perfect. We're gonna
Yeah.
call it Adam Cart.
Adam's on.
Exactly.
Adam's on, that's great.
Adam's on. I like it.
Not
Adam's
this
on.
week.
Let me ask a question. What do you think of avocado oil? I
Me?
mean,
Kosher,
Me, I
right?
love it.
Good stuff.
I like it.
I've fallen in love with avocado oil.
It's a really great replacement for canola because it's so neutrally flavored
Yep.
but its smoke point is pretty high, surprisingly, for a fruit oil.
Yeah, it
You'd
is.
think it would smoke really low, but I
And
love
it's
using it. It's like
also-
all I
it's
use
also
around
a
here.
I
Passover.
don't find it smoking, so
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is it's got a really
I
high
didn't know that. Good.
smoke point.
And for those of us that do,
It works
and for those of us that do Weight Watchers, it's 0 points.
Mm.
Just saying. It's pretty awesome. Avocado oil. You can buy it at Costco in a spray as well. They sell it at
neat.
Costco in
Didn't know
spray
that.
cans.
How can olive oil be zero?
Avocado.
Avocado oil be 0 points.
I know, because
Good
avocado is not
question.
0 points, but the avocado oil is for some reason. I don't know.
Maybe it's just the
I don't write
spray.
the Weight
Like
Watchers
ham
rules.
is 0 calories
sorry
per
guys. Sorry.
spray. Ridiculous.
I don't write the Weight Watchers rules. Don't get mad at me.
No.
Because nobody can have that much of avocado oil.
Thinking.
It's
Yeah,
not
I
even
could
like-
I use it now to
Right.
cook my eggs. I use it for everything.
Elliot, this is 1,500 servings.
Right.
1,532 servings.
It's the spray. So if you do the spray of any of those
Right.
spray,
Yeah,
it's 0.
it's just like any PAM spray. One spritz is 0 calories, which
Right.
is ridiculous because 5 sprays has calories. It's all about how they want to present themselves. But anyway, I like avocado oil. I'm going to buy some.
Yeah, avocado oil is really, really good. And it's
Okay,
being
so the
recommended. It's
low-
being recommended by a lot of chefs these days
Smoking
too.
point.
So they're really starting to switch over to it a little bit more than the canola and stuff like that. So, by the way, Jody's gone all the way up to 73 servings and it's still 0 points. Just saying.
Really?
So a teaspoon of actual olive oil is 1 point. Avocado oil is 1 point.
A teaspoon? Okay.
Teaspoon.
All right. Well, evidently the spray has, the minute they put it in a spray can, it has no more calories.
And you have to eat it standing up.
It's a
Don't ask me.
miracle spray.
If you dance, if you rock your baby while you're eating it, then
There you
lose
go.
weight and gain muscle.
Right.
It's amazing.
Yeah, that's
So,
right.
oh my goodness.
Lift her
it's
over your head, do
adorable.
some
Hi,
squats.
Sai.
That's
Hi,
my
Sai.
youngest.
If
No,
Alana, you were asking about like egg replacers at the beginning, and like a lot of the egg replacers, if you're doing baking, aren't going to be kosher for Passover. But
Right.
there are 2 that are really good, easy. You can get them at Costco, and they're kosher for Passover. A flax egg or a chia egg.
Really?
And basically what you do is you just take flaxseed or chia seed, grind them up in your coffee grinder or spice grinder or whatever, and you do a teaspoon to 2 tablespoons of hot water, and then you let them sit for like 10 or 15 minutes, and they'll start to congeal a little bit, especially the chia. And then you can add that in, and they don't do any rise, hence kosher for Passover.
Right.
And then you can't really, you've got to let them cool. So if you're making like an almond cookie or something, let it cool and come out of the oven all the way. But then it gets pretty firm, and they do a really good job holding things together. So if you're looking for an egg replacer for that,
That's pretty awesome.
for that specific thing.
I've used,
And then-
used
What
it-
is that?
Chia seeds?
Well, and then there's the vegan egg and the just egg.
It's gluten free, so I assume
Well,
it's-
yeah, that one's soy based, but basically what you do, because I actually
Soy's
You can
not
make
going
them at home if you soak soybeans or mung beans, and then you blend them, add a little bit of tapioca starch, some black salt. Black salt is like an Indian salt that has a very sulfur-like egg flavor to it. That gives you a lot of egg flavor with just a little bit, and you can find it. I mean, in Torrance, there's a bunch of like Indian spice shops.
Right.
You can find it at any of those places.
What's it called
And
again?
then
black
it's
salt.
black salt.
Black salt.
Black
Yeah.
salt. So
Very
you can
cool.
you can make it yourself, but I mean it's available at Whole Foods. Like just buy the just egg. It's like next to the actual eggs, and it cooks up just like scrambled eggs.
Oh, cool.
It's good. It's, I mean, they're higher in fat. They're not like the healthiest things, but they are made from beans. They do have fiber and proteins. You know, they're
Can I just say,
they're good.
Can I just say that I am schlepping such nachas here, you know, watching one of my little kids who's now a grown-up dad and who has all this great like Jewish knowledge and stuff like that. And it just makes me so happy, Adam, to see you as a big grown-up and not just a big grown-up, but a big grown-up who is like really mindful Jewishly. And
Smart guy.
You're welcome.
it just really,
Thanks.
The baby's
really
gonna
makes me
throw
proud.
up.
Oh,
How
stop.
was that?
No, he's good. He hasn't eaten in a while.
Maybe
He
you
just
gotta
got up in
move.
like an hour and a half.
The,
ago. Yeah.
The flaxseed that Adam suggested, the flaxseed egg substitute, works really nicely in baking.
Oh, nice.
I use that all the time.
Is that right?
Excellent.
That's
Excellent.
For baking, I don't know if people were here at the beginning when we were talking. I just use apple sauce because I enjoy baking and I bake a lot. And so I really don't have time to grind up flaxseed and buy it or any of those egg substitutes like NRG and some of those substitutes. They're pretty expensive, but we usually already have applesauce in the house and I just use that. And it doesn't really give you much of an apple flavor because the first time I did it, I used it for an apple cake thinking I may as well really lean into that appley flavor. But then I used it in something like biscuits or something else that was like a cake, a vanilla cake, and I didn't taste the apple. So because it's really proportionally not that much to the whole cake. And so it didn't overwhelm the other flavors.
But I've used the applesauce as a fat replacer commercially.
Yeah. People do that for
okay.
but an egg is a binder in a cake. It's not like scrambled eggs, but like if you're putting egg in a cake, it helps with leavening and as a binder for all the flour and stuff. And I just use applesauce and I find it works wonderful in muffins and cakes and things. And I don't even have to disguise it with craisins or any kind of a strong flavor.
I just have a quick.
If I eat 2 pounds of applesauce, will I get rid of 2 pounds of fat of mine?
Yes.
I have a quick question. Is this class available in English? 'Cause I'm not sure I understand any of the vocabulary or anything. Natasha understands. But I don't
you know,
understand.
guys, I read that club soda is even better replacement for eggs in baking.
Club soda, really?
Huh. Well, I know the bubbles help. You know,
I think if you have the club soda with vodka, you don't really care.
Yeah, right.
That's right.
That's what it was. It was the club soda, vodka, and lime in your baking.
Yeah, everything tasted good.
And it really is just in the glass while you're baking.
That's a whole other class.
It's a whole different class.
I love our classes.
I love it. I love these classes too, you guys. I really want to thank Abby again from the bottom of my heart for being with us and for introducing yourself to this part of our community. And we look forward to easing you into the rest of the community over time. Just so you know, Abby had reached out to myself and Rabbi Kale and on Facebook and said, hey, I've been watching a lot of your temple stuff and I'm really enjoying it. And I'd love to find a Jewish community to offer to do stuff with and stuff like that. And I picked up the phone and called her and said, hey, so I hear that you do some cooking classes and stuff. And we got to talking and the next thing you knew, here she is. And so Abby, thank you so much for being with us. Also, I want to remind people that, you know, go online, experiment with new stuff this year for Passover. Put new things on your Seder plate that you've never had before. If you don't have an orange on your Seder plate, look it up. You should have an orange on your Seder plate, especially if you're a woman, okay? Because that orange on your Seder plate is really about empowerment and really about women in the rabbinate and women clergy and realizing that we are a forward-thinking faith and a forward-thinking people. At least some people in our faith are forward-thinking. Obviously, there are some who don't go for it, but whatever. You can put chocolate on your Seder plate. Put some fair trade chocolate on your Seder plate, and let that be a reminder to you to take care of the world and think about others in the world who are maybe not being given the same kind of equity in their work and stuff like that, and not being included in the ways that we would like to see everyone included. So find those things that fit. For some of us, we might eat kidneyot, so those soy things might be okay. For others of us that keep a more strict Ashkenazi tradition, we don't eat the legumes and the corn and rice and stuff like that. I will tell you that the state of Israel has decided that kidneyot is allowable for Passover. And when the state of Israel decided that, I decided to move away from my very strong Ashkenazi roots and to allow myself to adopt that. You know, we are all evolving here. We're all evolving and we're all learning new things. I love the idea that Abby shared, you know, to do one vegan meal a week. Why not? You know, start easing yourself into more. I will share with you that many years ago, I remember Rabbi Eric Yaffe, when he was the president of the URJ, he came out and he said, we're going to talk about ethical kashrut, okay? Not about the fact that you shouldn't bathe the kid in its mother's milk, not about the fact that you shouldn't eat shrimp or pork, but about the fact that you should care about where your eggs are coming from, care about where your meats are coming from, care about, think about is this fair trade? Is it coming from people who are being treated or mistreated? And this kind of ethical kashrut can certainly become part of our lives, because the reality is that kashrut is about mindful eating. That's what it's about. Kashrut is about respecting what we eat and being thankful for what we eat. And so it's really important that we find ways to adopt these traditions into our homes and into our lives. So Passover is a great time to adopt those kinds of traditions. It's a great time to think about those kinds of things because, hey, we're celebrating our freedom, and freedom doesn't come without a price. Freedom is not free, and freedom comes with obligation and with responsibility. So I hope you all have a wonderful Passover. I hope that you use some of these recipes throughout Pesach and really, really enjoy this holiday. I know it's not the way that we want to celebrate Passover again, but in some ways it's an even better way to celebrate Passover when we can be with even more of the community each and every time that we celebrate. So maybe, you know, these new things are not so bad. And again, another huge thank you to Abby for being here. Thank you for this incredible recipes. I can't wait to make the potato soup, by the way. That one just really excites me. And maybe I'll make it in my Vitamix. Because I love my Vitamix and I love the fact that it makes my soup hot and gets it ready. So it's pretty fun. But and to all the rest of you, thank you for supporting our Cooking with the Cantor series. We'll have another class being advertising. Yes, we love air fryers. Air fryers are amazing too. We look forward to having another offering probably in about another 6 weeks. And so be on the lookout for that and sign up for that class and tell your friends. And with that, folks, Lila Tov, and thanks so much for being with us again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thanks, Abby.
Sorry for not recording.
Great idea.